Hi, this is Matt. Today we're doing a video on spindle installation. So this rail system is particularly big. It actually has two newel posts. The newel post meaning the post that has the structure in the rail, and everything else is over the post. There's approximately 80 feet of rail and two posts. Generally speaking, the posts are on a flat situation 8 to 10 feet apart. So with that being said, the strength has to be found in the spindles. So I'm going to show you what we're doing. We have what we call a baluster dowel, which has coarse threads going down into the floor, and the other part sticks up, and the actual spindle sits down on top of it. So first, just because this is a finish, we want to take that finish off. Go down just like a 30-second. This particular, it's a driver that drives them down into the floor. So now we have a spindle that has a certain size bit. We already have a center hole, but we are using this drill block so that it stays straight and it doesn't elongate that hole. Now we want to ensure that this is going to be tight. So I'm throwing a little glue on the bottom. I'll throw a little bit of additional glue inside the hole. I'm twisting this on. So of course, we want to make sure that it's plumb both ways, and I do have a way of doing that. It's using my plumb laser. And also we have bigger holes. So those are going to be used with a 3-inch threaded rod, and those are intermittently spaced, more so at certain areas, and that'll also help stiffen up the rail.
You want to explain this one real quick? What we got going on here with these bigger ones?
The reason why some of these spindles are going to have this threaded rod, it actually goes from 3 inches below the spindle all the way up to the top of the spindle, is for strength. In a stairway like this, there's only 2 newel posts, one at the bottom of each step, and everything else is going to be, the structure is going to be only by spindles. So every so often there'll be a solid spindle going, which will be glued into the floor. The threaded rod goes all the way up to the top. Each hole at the bottom of the rail will have glue in it. But after every spindle's put in, the rail should be fairly strong.
Alrighty. Alright guys, just finishing up for the day, and just wanted to kind of show how it's going so far. Now as you can see, there's gaps up there, and it's just like here. That'll be those ones that have the threaded rod that go all the way in. The reason why we're doing those ones last is we'll actually be putting epoxy down in there, and epoxy has like a set time of roughly 30 minutes, or the stuff we're using anyways. And then obviously cure time is like several days, but we'll be putting those in last, so that way we don't put them in and they're solid and there's no wiggle room at all to be able to put the rail on. There's how the other side looks. Okay guys, just want to quickly go over what we got going on here for cutting these spindles down. So we're working with some tapered spindles, so we had to build this jig. And basically what this jig does is backside is flush with our fence, and then we screw it in with a couple screws, and these are basically our lengths. So we have some roughly 35-inch spindles, roughly some between 37 and 38, and then 40 and 41. And basically this is just our set block, and the set block is essentially the difference of our taper from the one end to the other. And so we're cutting off the bigger end, and as you come down, it obviously gets smaller. So to compensate for that, basically we have our thickness on this end that holds it away from the fence and as well as off of the fence, so that we get a nice straight cut on this other end over here when we cut them. Alright guys, real quickly I want to show what one of these threaded ones look like. Basically you can kind of see what they did is they ran a router actually down the length of it, all the way down the length of it. And then they put in that threaded rod. I believe it's 1/2-inch threaded rod. And then they put epoxy in there, and then they put a filler strip in there, and then they sanded it and painted over it. And obviously they'll have to be retouched up again because you can kind of see the wood kind of cracked a little bit along some of them. But basically how these are going to work is they'll provide quite a bit more additional support for areas such as coming right outside this door here. You can see the homeowner wanted more of them placed outside the doors, these bigger holes, so that way there's more support in case someone was to, you know, be talking on the phone or something and not see where they're going, or trying to carry something out the doorway. They would have these bigger, thicker, more stable spindles holding up this section of the rail. But otherwise, besides these areas in front of the door, it's pretty much equally kind of spaced out.
Here we're going to set this newel post. There are many different kinds of newel post fasteners. As you can see, here is something that is routed into the tread. This is called a key lock. They make different kinds with bolts sticking out, but that kind you have to have an 1.5-inch hole on the side of the post and you have to plug it. So I like these kind. So what I'm going to do here, I already have this bolt set to the right depth. And this plate is angled, so that as I pound it in, it's going to tighten. But first, I like to put glue down in there, construction adhesive, so that way when this hardens, it'll make it more rigid. Take a hammer and a block of wood. You can also use a rubber mallet. On the back side I have a stop point. That's all there's to it.
Matt's just gluing up the end of this piece here. Gonna do a quick demo as to how we connect these things up. So all the spindles that we did epoxy are the ones that are taped around, so in case any of the epoxy squeezed out.
Gosh, you gotta go up here.
But basically we got this
Up higher
fancy system where this bolt slips in there and we glue the end of it with wood glue. This fancy nut goes up inside, clicks into place, and then there's a driver actually on this drill here. So once you get it into place, you'll put the driver up onto there's a nut up inside there, and it sucks that joint right together. And obviously adjust it as need be until you get it nice and flush here, and then once this is flush, you'll suck it up all the way, finish it up, tightening it up. But first you got to go through and make sure every one of these spindles seats properly into the handrail. There it is. Alright, so there's what it kind of looks like on the inside on each of the spindles, where it sits down nicely in the goo. This glue, there's actually subfloor in each of the holes. So here's the handrail for the next section here, and you can see these are pre-drilled. And when we do these, we always do them a 1/16 oversize. That way we can allow for a little bit of play, and then we goo or subfloor glue the inside of them, so then it sticks nice and tight, and then once it's dry it doesn't ever move. And now we can see
Oops. Maybe you lost your bit.
Make sure you drop your bit.
yeah, don't forget that part. You always want to drop your bit after you get it done nice. You can see how nice, tight that joint is. There's like, it's pretty much flush. Might be just a fuzz high on the left side versus the right, but nice and smooth. Alrighty, just quickly wanted to show how everything turned out. In case you're wondering what these are here for, is basically to help just hold down pressure so that if someone was to bump it or something, it wouldn't pop loose from the glue that's inside the railing.